now we're going to look at your blog. And so to get here, I simply, again, was on this main navigation. I just clicked blog. And really, there's not a whole lot here. There's two ways to get to this little thing that I'm pulling up. So if you don't click on it and you go straight to the cogs, you can get here. You can also click on blog, and then you can click on the cogs here. You really don't need to worry about anything in this section unless you're trying to do something a little bit different, like if you wanted to change the name from blog to journal or whatever. I will be cautious if you change this URL slug. It could mean that you have broken links somewhere else on your page, so just be wary of that if you do decide to change this. And then if you wanted to add a password, you can also turn this page off. And then this is posts per page. I like to keep it at 20. That's the max that it will allow, and that is because you will have people who typically won't hit that arrow to go to the next page. You'll lose people with kind of a drop-off rate, so this is just a way to keep them looking at what options you have available without losing them. So there's that. Again, you probably won't need it. But let's talk about some of these settings and things that you will need to do as you add a new blog post. So this is a blog post that's already done, and we've got it all set. So we've uploaded what's called our feature image. This image means it's going to show up on the kind of like show all page where we're looking at right here underneath. And so again, we've got that focal point, so you can change that. You can remove image, upload it. Excerpt, you can put whatever you want here. Typically, I will just grab the first two sentences of my blog. Oh, no, and we're just going to go with it. That's my daughter in the background. But so let's go back to settings. Typically, like I said, I'll grab the first two sentences, just an excerpt. You can totally leave this blank. Post URL, usually it will generate that, but if you go back and change the title of your blog, you might need to come in here and change the URL as well. This one in particular is actually linked to something in our navigation, so it has a different post URL. If you have multiple people working for you, like, say there's a team of 3 and you want to show who's the author, this is where you can select who actually wrote it so people can see that. Source URL, you don't typically need any of that. Options, this is status. So if you want to schedule a blog post, you can do that. If you want to put it in draft because you're not ready for it to be scheduled, that's another option. And usually, I'll have a bunch sitting in draft because they're not ready. Categories, so this is what will show at the top, search the blog, but I have, there's not a way that it auto-populates this, so if you add a category, you'll also need to add it at the top, which I can show you how to do. So if we added a category here that said fun, we would just type that in, we'd hit enter, and now we've got more categories. We can also select it and then hit delete. So you can kind of decide where you think all your blogs will fit into. You can always add categories, but again, you will have to manually add a link at the top so people can search for it. But then there's another way that it auto-populates. So I'll show you. And it also can depend on your theme based on how we've done this, if you need to do that or not. But everything else you don't really need. So I'm gonna hit cancel because we didn't really update anything that we want to update. So here I have manually built this search for blog. It's not auto-populated. And so if we added, let's say, that fun category, we'll have to come down here into this section. And this section is just like text. So basically, say you want it in front of that all, you would just put your cursor there, you type it, and then you have to hit enter, or space, sorry, and then you just kind of type it again, and then you simply select it, and you go over here to what I call like the paper link. It's like a chain, and you would enter in the URL, and I'll show you how we get that URL. This would not be, when we go here, we had, if you watched the other video on doing links, you saw pages. It's not going to be one of these pages. It's going to be a web address. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. And then once you do that, there'll be this button here and you'll hit apply. And that's how I actually kind of like manually put these categories up here so that people can search. Okay, so let's show how do we get that URL so that I'm just showing you for our purposes, since we don't actually have a category called fun, let's do leadership. So we're gonna save our changes. Okay, and down here you're going to see human resources, leadership, culture. These are our tags, right? These are auto-populated. So whenever you add a tag to something, they're going to automatically pop up here and they're going to be like clickable. Most people don't realize that or they miss it, so that's why we've added it up here because it's a lot more vibrant. So what I want to do to get that URL is I want to hit this arrow. This puts us in like live mode, so to speak, and we're not... So our URL is going to be a little bit differently. So when we go to this live mode, we're going to have, your URL.squarespace.com. And versus when we're in edit mode, there's a bunch of other stuff in that URL. So for example, we said leadership. So I click on leadership and now it takes me to all the blogs tagged leadership. So then you would just go up to your browser at the top and you would copy the URL. You can't actually see that in the video because I kind of have this, have it protected where it's not showing you the top of my browser. But for this sake, it's https:// and then the name of your site, .squarespace.com/blog/category/ for our purposes, leadership. Obviously, you do not need to remember that. You would simply just copy it. You would come back. You're going to find this arrow. That takes you back into the mode where you can find the edit button. You click the edit button. You come back down here. You select. You hit this little paper link. And then right here is where you would paste the URL that we just had. So as you can see, it's that blog/category/leadership, yada, yada, yada. And then you would hit apply. It's not letting me hit apply right now. Well, I can just show you. So if we took that out, if we paste it in there, it's not letting me hit apply because I already had that link in there. But if I took out the P, you'd see the apply link would come. So that is how you manually add a category at the top of this little section. So we'll click done. And then let's go back to the main page where it shows all our blogs. So for this page, you don't have to worry about doing anything. Every time you add a blog, it will automatically populate here. So you're good to go. So let's add a blog. We come up here, we hit this plus signal. We then, my new blog, and then this, this is my new blog, yay. So this is how you start typing. Usually you've probably typed this out in a Word doc or a Google Doc, and so you're just simply copying and pasting at this point. I highly recommend that. If you do want to add a photo, this little line with the plus will pop up. You click that. You can actually add way more than a photo. You can add all of these things. You'll probably just be using the image section. So as you notice, the image is very, very large. So I'm going to show you how to fix that, because it's a bit overwhelming. So let's just select a photo. So we select that photo. I like the focal point. I don't need a caption, so I'm just going to turn that off. I don't need it to link anywhere, but I do want to always add that alternate text. So I'm just going to type that in. I would also change the file name at this point. And I know this is annoying and super tedious, but it will help people find you so much. I truly believe it. So take just the 2 extra seconds to do that. Okay, and then we have design, and honestly, you don't really need any of that. But what we want to do is we want to make this smaller. So in order to do that, we have to go back up to this plus, and we have to select spacer. Okay, then you're going to take the spacer, and I'm holding my mouse down, and I'm moving it, and I'm dragging it. Okay, but there's a trick, and this is where Squarespace to me is just like not user friendly in this point. But there are different ways to add this spacer over to the side. So if you see now, you see a blue line, and it goes all the way up to "This is my new blog, yay," all the way down to the photo. If I were to let go, and you see I let go of that spacer, I've pushed the text over with the photo. Well, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the text to go all the way across and the photo to be pushed over, okay? So I'm gonna drag it back up so that it's above everything. This time I put it over. If I move my mouse slightly toward the right, like toward the center of the image, that blue line will actually drop down, so it's no longer like, you see that it stops right after the image. So now it lets my text go all the way across and my image go here. Then I can simply pull that box over. So if I want it, a little bit over to the left, I can do that. But typically what I like to do is, like, I want to center it. So I'm going to add another spacer. I'm going to drag this one. Now see, I'm going up, so I got to make sure I don't do the text. So I got to take it a little bit to the center. And now it's just over the photo, and I let go. And now I can adjust. So if I want to keep it in the center, then I just move these text boxes just a little bit so that I can make sure I'm keeping that photo in the center, because these spacers are similar. And then let's pretend that I have a bunch of text here. Okay, so there you can kind of see what it looks like if I let my text go all the way across. I want to put a photo in the center, and then I want to keep going with text. So I come down, I find that plus button. Now here the text actually went, so like I said, it's not user friendly. So we have to figure out, so see how if I do the plus here, the blue line goes all the way across. Now I'm going to get a text box all the way across, versus when I did it here, I only get one that's the size of that photo. So I want to do a text box all the way across. I want to add more text. And there we go. So this also applies, like, if you wanted to do, you make this photo really small. If you wanted to make it here, maybe you don't need the spacer on this side, but you want it more like this, so it's all left aligned. You can do that. You can also add another image. Maybe you made a graphic in Canva, and so you wanted a photo on one side and that graphic on the other side. You could delete that spacer, and then you could, even them up or do whatever. They're not going to show even in this point, but as long as your graphic and your photo, or your two photos, are both the same size, so let's say they're both a 4x6 photo, then they'll be even here. And then they'll be even to each other. So that is how you add a blog. I know it can be a little frustrating to understand how to drag the photos and the images, because there's just like very subtle changes, which if you see the blue, now I'm dragging it on that side, but if I were to go out, I've just made it, of course now it's being funny. So you can see how you can play around with it, and it can get really frustrating because it's not going where you want it to go. If that ever happens, just click it, look for that little red delete button, and just start over. And so this is a good reason why I recommend don't write your blogs in Squarespace, because you will get frustrated if something like that happens and you have to start over, because it has happened to me. So once you're done, you've got an option to click Save, Publish, or Schedule. So if you're ready to go live, you can hit Publish. If you want it to go live on a certain date, you hit Schedule. And if you want it to just be a draft because you're not ready, then you can click Save. So we're going to click Save, and then we're going to come back over here. We're going to go to Settings, and this is where we need to add this feature image, because otherwise it's gonna look really funny on our like show all blog page. So we've added the featured image. We can add that excerpt here if we want. And then we want to come over to categories. So show you that again. So when you open it, you go to content and you upload your feature image. Then you go to options and you're going to click categories. And this is where you're going to type one of those categories. So let's say we want it to be leadership and human resources, but that's it. So then we'll click save. And if you go to the main shop, I keep calling it shop all, but the search all page for all your blogs. Oh, we're still in draft mode, so it's not going to show up. But let's say I'm ready to make it live. You can see options, status, published. Okay. We're going to go to publish it. We're going to click save. Your post is now live. Share with your followers. So you can always just grab that URL if you want. I usually just say done. And now here it is, my new blog. And it's populated the categories. Because I don't have an excerpt, it's blank right here.